Hello and welcome to the Philippines. At least let's hope that you will very soon be welcome to the Philippines without any restrictions and you'll be able to travel. Come back to spend money as a tourist, as an expat. Um, there's good news here. I'm going to go over some of the good news and I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to step out on a limb and make a prediction. Canada has just announced that they are opening up October 1st, 2022. No more restrictions, no vaccine, no health pass, all that sort of stuff dropping off. Thailand has announced the same thing, and they're dropping vaccine requirements for travel. I have not read anything about masks yet, whether they're all going to be dropping masks as well or not. But I'm going to predict that the Philippines, probably not in October, maybe in November, will be pushed and shoved and dragged one way or another. I think the Philippines is going to join the other 85 plus nations who have dropped all travel restrictions, who will come to understand finally that this virus can be treated as endemic and treated like the flu, like influenza, like all the other things that we've dealt with for dozens of decades, and let the economy get back, let people get back to their livelihoods. And it's not just the nation's economy that needs a huge boost. The livelihoods of the average citizens who've lost their jobs, who've lost their businesses, to start crawling back to some level of normalcy. I'll talk a little bit about airlines and pricing, and anyway, let's get into some, and a little bit about the aftermath of Super Typhoon Carding that hit, took one day to pass across central Luzon in the Philippines. Jumping over to a news site called PatiaMail.com. Travelers to Thailand no longer required to show proof of vaccination or ATK test results from October 1. Thailand's Center of COVID-19 Situation Administration announced the ending of the nationwide COVID-19 emergency decree on September 30th, 2022, as the kingdom reclassified COVID-19 from a dangerous communicable disease to a communicable disease under surveillance from October 1, 2022. The CCSA also stated that from October 1, international travelers to Thailand will no longer be required to show proof of vaccination or ATK test results. Some other interesting things here. Since the pandemic, Thailand has gradually reopened to international tourism starting in July 2021 with the Phuket Sandbox, Sumuai Plus program, and 7+7 extension programs. This was followed by a 4-phase reopening timeline from October 2021 to January 2022. The kingdom entered the stage of fully reopening from July 2022 with the removal of the Thailand Pass registration scheme. And foreign nationals only be required to show proof of vaccination or a negative ATK test result within 17 hours of travel. This will be lifted from October 1st, 2022. In addition, the cabinet approved extending the period of stay to 45 days from 30 days for tourists from countries, territories entitled to visa exemption, and to 30 days from 15 days for those eligible for a visa on arrival. Good news, this is from Forbes. Canada lifts COVID vaccine mandate for international travelers. October 1st, go down here a bit. This is from Forbes magazine. Canada will drop its COVID-19 vaccine requirements for visitors entering the country starting October 1, 2022. Officials announced Monday reopening the Canadian border to unvaccinated travelers for the first time since the worldwide vaccination campaign begun. Canadian and foreign travelers will no longer need to submit proof of vaccination or pre-travel testing or go into quarantine or isolation upon entering the country starting Saturday, October 1st. The move comes 1 week after Canadian members of Parliament and border city mayors wrote a letter calling on Prime Minister Trudeau and U.S. President Biden to lift unnecessary travel restrictions that they argue have hurt border cities, even as both countries have largely returned to normal daily life. Canada now joins a list of 85 countries and territories without COVID-19 entry requirements, following similar moves by Japan last month, as well as Mexico, UK, France, Germany, Ireland, Iceland, Italy, Jamaica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Argentina, Chile, and more. Non-U.S. citizens traveling into the United States by air, sea, or land still need to be fully vaccinated under U.S. policy. Time to get with the program, I think. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, requires full vaccination, not including a booster dose, for non-U.S. citizens before boarding a flight, with limited exemptions for children under 18. People traveling for foreign government work, and people with certain medical conditions that prevent them from receiving a vaccine. Every competent medical professional understands that there are millions of people who have medical conditions that should prevent them from getting certain types of vaccines. And the sad story is that the media and the governments rarely even allow, in fact, they'll oftentimes even censor that type of information, it seems. There are many top doctors who have not gone along with the government narrative on all this, who have been censored by much of the media, some have even lost their jobs. And even some of the comments I get, not many, but occasionally, people who, because of their news sources, they don't understand who's at risk, that most people are not at risk of a severe case. They don't understand that there are many people who have legitimate reasons not to get a vaccine. They don't understand about the various types of vaccines and the pros and cons and various issues with the vaccines. They haven't heard any of that. They get their news apparently from one source and one source only. From the very beginning, back in January 2020 forward, I have been seeking out a lot of medical information, listening and reading a lot of medical studies about this, and there is not agreement on all this. The governments want to have one narrative, governments, pharma, and media pushing one narrative, censoring many top doctors. And I have gone out of my way to search out and get as much information as I can on this. It takes a lot of time. Dr. Mobeen, Dr. Bean, many other doctors, Dr. John Campbell, Trial Site, just a ton of sources out there who have to be careful. Even John Campbell said the other day, said, I have to be careful what I say, how I say things, because YouTube gave me a warning. And he puts out a lot of, in fact, he's written a book for nurses, I think, trains nurses. And he said, I have to be really careful how I word things because YouTube will shut me down. Censorship is alive and well. And free speech is not so well under the present circumstances. So don't make your plans, don't buy airline tickets because of what I'm saying here, but my prediction is that the Philippines will be pushed, shoved, drugged, kicking and screaming into the new reality that this is manageable, that it is endemic, that we have to deal with it like the flu each year. And just have to realize that and slowly, very slowly, try to recover the livelihoods of the people and the economy here in the Philippines. Before I get into some of the details about Super Typhoon Carding that hit Luzon, central Luzon here recently, and some of the damage and information about that. Anyway, this article I found kind of interesting. Alert level one. Most of the Philippines is under alert level one, where most businesses can be open and have full occupancy. Some areas are under alert level two, where they're 50% occupancy or something like that. The reality is, what the official guidelines are, what reality is on the street, are often very far apart. Reality is there's a shortage, still is a shortage of passenger buses and jeepneys, especially during rush hour, especially on certain routes. And they're saying that they're allowed to stand. Well, the fact of the matter is, I would say 2, 3, 4 months or longer, this has been the reality. People need to people need transportation. Some of these people live a long ways away from their work, and they need to get on that bus. And there's long lines for these places, and the bus lines need to make money. And of course, because everybody realizes, of course, that because everybody's wearing a mask, that you no longer have to social distance, right? Isn't that the reasoning? That one of the reasonings? My opinion and that of others that I've read online and experts have said, yeah, one of the issues with wearing masks is people think they're safe. They think they don't have to social distance anymore. And that is a discussion for another time. There are studies and stuff out there about social distancing and about masks. And if you are so inclined, you can search them out. Now, getting back to Super Typhoon carding. Netizens hail Sierra Madre for taming the typhoon. Uh, Damages could have been much worse across the full region up there, Luzon. But the Sierra Madre mountain range is the longest in the Philippines, up in Luzon province, and it generally tames, if you use that term, tames typhoons. They lose a lot of their strength when they hit mountain ranges, just like around the world. Typhoons, once they gain power in warm seas, which happens in the Philippines, we have they come in from the Pacific usually, cold, and they hit the warmer waters of the Philippine Sea, and they pick up strength very rapidly. And when they hit land, generally they start losing some strength, especially a big mountain range like this. One of the problems we had down here in the Visayas in central Philippines in December, middle of December last year, with Super Typhoon Odette, international name Rai. Uh, Generally, those typhoons, they lose their strength. And I've stayed up late watching for a typhoon to come across in 2015, 2016, and never amounted to anything. They lost their strength coming across the various islands, coming across Leyte, coming across Bohol. And everybody kind of expected Typhoon Odette to do the same thing, to lose its strength coming across those islands, but it never did. It kept that strength and did major damage all the way across the Visayas. And an update on Super Typhoon Carding leaves 6 people dead. 5 of those were rescuers who were hit by were in the water, were hit by a wall floating down the water, and poles possibly electrified. Wires may have been electrocuted. 5 rescues were the first confirmed casualties. Super Typhoon Carding. International name Noru. The strongest storm to hit the country this year. Left a trail of destruction, stripping off roofs, knocking out power lines, toppling structures as it barreled through the mainly agricultural provinces of central Luzon region on Sunday until early Monday. A resident, Eli Alberto, 70, also died when he was buried by a landslide in the village around 7:30 p.m. The rescuers were from Bulacan Province Disaster Risk Reduction Management Offices, who drowned while conducting rescue operations in San Miguel town, where 40 of the 49 villages were submerged in floodwaters due to strong rains spawned by the typhoon. The team of emergency responders, gives their names, was deployed to help 4 households trapped in floodwaters on Sunday afternoon, but its members were hit by a collapsed wall, which apparently drowned and swept them away. Appeal for aid. Among the worst hit by the typhoon were the 5 towns in Quezon's Polillo group of islands. They're just off the coast of Luzon. And, all right, go down here a little bit further. Some of the trash that was washed up on, I believe it, Manila Bay. Damage in the village is more than 85 to 90%. The roof of its elementary school was almost wiped out. Many houses were damaged because of the strong winds. Mayor Aman said the typhoon damaged 80% of the houses in the town center. Most of the residents are now without roofs. And we're still hearing, according to the mayor, the destruction could be worse. Most of the villages in far-flung areas outside of town have yet to make a report due to lack of communication. More than 78,000 people from Metro Manila and these other regions and Bicol fled their homes due to typhoon carding. The provinces of Bulacan, Quezon, and Nueva, I'm not sure how to say that, were worst hit by the typhoon. The beautiful islands and the beautiful people of the Philippines put up with a lot of risks, and there are risks all over the world: earthquakes, tornadoes, storms, lightning, landslides, volcanoes, all over the world, pollution, cities. And, one chooses their risks, where you're going to live, chooses your risks. And the Philippines is a great place with great people, many who speak and understand English, so you can carry on a conversation. One of the issues with their agriculture, the reason they can't feed a lot of their own people on a regular basis and they have to import a lot of their food, is there's either not enough water or there's too much water, or you get a typhoon like this. And when I came in 2015, it was a drought year. 2019 was a drought year, and there was issues because so many of the wells here in Cebu City were relatively shallow wells, not deep wells. There was an issue with water. A lot of water had to be shipped in from various sources, and people would have to get up early in the morning and with their containers and hope that the truck would show up on time. Oftentimes it didn't show up that day, according to some taxi drivers. They'd get up, go get in line, and no truck would show up. So there are things to deal with. There are, whereas, like the U.S., many years ago, they started mobilizing. They had various issues with hurricanes coming into New Orleans area. And because of that, they started pre-positioning a lot of people. In fact, if there's a hurricane coming in, like is going to happen here in a few days in Florida, USA, the U.S. will bring in utility workers, electrical line workers, and contractors from around the country to be ready to start doing repairs immediately. Well, we don't have that. We don't have the permanent evacuation centers. We don't have the mobilization set up like that here in the Philippines yet. After Odette, Typhoon Odette, Central Visayas, some electrical companies, I think they're all short-staffed, in my opinion, just to handle regular stuff, because it doesn't take a few days. It might take a few weeks to get something done. And there were a few utility workers that came down and helped re-electrify and fix things, but it took a long time Took a long time, and there's still areas that are having issues 9 months later, over 9 months later, in different islands. So you choose your poison, choose your risks wherever you're at. You're not, it's a risk waking up, it's a risk going to bed. So best enjoy your life as best you can each and every day. Make a positive difference in the lives of those around you. Sometimes I can't help. Sometimes I can't help myself ranting a little bit because I've been in the Philippines, and I have seen the damaged livelihoods. I've seen the people who've lost their businesses. I've seen the death and destruction that has, not from just bad, not from the virus, but from the lockdowns. And presently around the world, in all age groups, there are excess deaths being reported. Insurance companies are reporting them, and not COVID related. Not COVID related. People dropping dead that are supposedly healthy that normally wouldn't. Excess deaths. There's information online. If it hasn't, some of it has been censored. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. The mainstream media apparently doesn't want to talk about it, but you can find that information. And there is finally starting to be some investigation. Why? Why all these excess deaths? Why are healthy people dropping dead at such higher rates than would be average or normal? Anyway, for those of you who are still here, thanks for sticking with me. And hopefully, in the next month or so, we will hear the good news that the Philippines is dropping all restrictions and requirements and will join most of the rest of the world and invite people back into the country to help this country and the people recover from these last 2.5 years. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.